I got invited to LA with Urban Decay and I thought it was spam. I was like, someone's winding me up here. They reposted a picture of me wearing a crazy pair of their eyelashes and I got 1,000 followers like that. I've always wanted my own makeup brand. Realised it could be a reality for me. And then I launched November 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. Working on a makeup counter at one point, I think I was maybe a little bit embarrassed that was my background, but that is completely where my power comes from. I was going to just put all my own investment into the brand to get it kick-started. I realised really quickly that I could do that, but it would be a pretty short leap. There's a block in me and I'm like, if I'm not excited about this and I don't think it's brilliant, we can't do it. Which is not something I've ever shared.
Welcome.
Hi.
It's so nice to have you here. I feel like, when did we last see each other?
I think it was a year ago. It was a year ago at Founders Forum.
Yeah. And now look, here we are with also one of the same investors.
I think almost 2 now. But yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's so exciting. What's happening there? Are you allowed to talk about that?
We are close to closing our Series A.
That is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
When did you start raising for that?
We started working on it quite a long time ago.
Yeah, they take so long.
It takes a long time. It took a lot of effort from the team. It's so good because it gets everything behind the business, like the running order, like the processes and everything. Everything is in such a good place now. But the team, it's like another job for them. Yeah. Getting prepared for it. Oh my God, 100%. But we're really nearly there now. So
amazing. Well, let's go into that. Firstly, for people who either don't know who you are or don't know enough about you, could you give us a whistle-stop tour of your career to date?
Okay.
Your entire life.
Makeup artist, Scottish makeup artist for 10 years. I kind of did it all. So I started on makeup counters in Debenhams, RIP. Went to college to do makeup artistry, worked freelance, fell into social media by accident. That kind of ended up being my life for 5, I think it's been 5 full years of really working hard at it. And then during that time, I've always wanted my own makeup brand. It was always a pipe dream. I used to do that thing. I used to sit on my counter and daydream about what mine would look like. Realised it could be a reality for me if I put my head down and I started working hard on it. So I did that. And then I think 2 years of development and getting prepared, I launched November 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, and now we're here. So I weirdly, all of those areas of my life I've carried along with me. I'm still a makeup artist. I'm still a makeup counter girl at heart. That was honestly, I loved it. Yeah. I loved working on counter. I still do, social media. I love it. I love sharing my life. I love teaching people. I've been told that I'm a good teacher, which is a huge compliment.
No, absolutely.
And I suppose that's a whistle-stop tour.
Yeah, no, that's a very good whistle-stop tour, very concise and covering all the parts. I'm actually quite jealous. I can't keep anything concise in my life ever. And so when you say that kind of social media you fell into accidentally, how did that happen? How did you kind of start and go to where you are now?
Do you know, it's so funny. So you'll know, this is so fun talking to you because you know exactly what I'm talking about here. So I was a makeup artist, and what I would do, I worked on counter for Alamasca at this point, and I was still at college at the same time. So what I would do every morning, I would wake up and do a full face of makeup on myself because I loved it. It was literally, it was my passion. And I would take selfies, and I used to get taken, people would take the piss out of me for taking selfies. And they're like, why are you taking pictures of yourself? I'm glad that I'm glad that I did.
She paved the way. She started the selfie.
So I would take pictures of my makeup, and then at the end of the day, I would post them, and then I would come home and I would take all my makeup off and I would do it again and take more pictures because I was practicing at the end of the day, like right at the start. Was my makeup great? I mean, probably not technically, but I felt great. So that's all that really mattered. All that matters. So I would take my pictures and I would post them, and I started kind of gathering a little bit more of a following, and it was really, it was really, really steady. And then I got reposted for the first time. So this is back in the day, this is what would make a career in social media, is if you would get reposted by other brands. So Alamasca, who I worked for, they reposted one, and I remember exactly what it looked like. I've still got the photo somewhere in my phone, but it was a picture of me wearing a crazy pair of their eyelashes, and they reposted me, and I got maybe like 1,000 followers like that. And I didn't have that many at that point. So weirdly, this kind of like kickstarted like some kind of snowball effect. So I hit 10K, And I remember standing at the front of the counter and the security guard was walking past and I was like, I'm kind of a big deal.
I'm Instagram famous.
So weirdly, do you know, it's funny, I think I felt most confident at that. Maybe I've just grown up now, but at that time I was like, maybe my ego, you know, I had a real inflated ego just for that little, like that
but
few days.
I feel like at that stage of being a kind of like older teenager, you either have, it's one side or the other. It's either like that kind of more insecurity kind of self-conscious side, or it, like, I look back and I was the most like naive, like inflated ego, like, and it wasn't even that I just like thought I was amazing. It was just like that confidence that you just have that like, especially when it's reinforced by anything, like for example, like you suddenly getting a lot of followers in terms of that, and it's like, you know what, the world is mine.
And do you know what I think it was to do with my craft. It was makeup, and I was like, oh my god, people think I'm good at makeup, so my confidence in myself, maybe, but it was I was like, oh my god, I'm a great makeup artist. And then the amazing thing about makeup is you're always learning, like, and you're constantly evolving, even the way that you do your own makeup on other people, whatever. There's so much to learn all the time. But the way that I thought about this, right, was I had 10,000 followers. People had started coming into Alamasca to see me, which meant that they would sit down with me and we would have a chat and I would talk them through the products. And then, you know, my sales started going up. So I never thought about anything else other than I'm going to make my target every week and I'm going to be such a valued employee. Because so I was just really excited to work hard for whoever I was working for, because I loved like throwing myself into anything. So that happened. I hit the 10K. I was on counter. I felt like I was doing great. I was booked up every weekend for doing makeups on counter. And then I remember one day someone came in to see me and they only followed me on Instagram. And remember back in the day, you could only post photos.
Yes.
So my photos they weren't a great representation of what I'm like as a person. So this person sat down and I didn't think anything of it. I started doing her makeup and then halfway through she was like, I'm sorry, I just need to tell you that you're not what I expected at all. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? And she was like, you are so much warmer and you're so much nicer than I thought you were going to be. And I, you know, that weirdly, that's like a compliment, but also like, oh shit, I was like, did you think I was going to be nasty? And then she was like, no, you just look so serious in your photos. And she was like, you should start a YouTube channel. Yeah, right. And I was like, no, no way. Because I was terrified. My confidence came on counter, and, you know, that's where I was comfortable and I was confident. So getting, you know, pushed into YouTube, I was a bit like, oh, I'm a bit nervous, but it planted a seed. And then I think like a couple of months later, I posted my first YouTube video and I posted on my Instagram. You know, people would ask me, how do I do this makeup? And you can't type out, you know, directions on how to blend eyeshadow, not really. So I just told my Instagram, I'm on YouTube. And then that came over. And then basically both I think, pools of followers just started growing. And I think like attracts like. So what I was so excited about was all these people that were following me are really similar to me. And I'm not saying this to blow my own trumpet, but they were really cool. They were really nice and they were really kind. And I think that's that community. You know, we all talk about community so much, too much probably, but it is so important. And too much is the wrong word. I didn't mean it like that. I mean,
but yeah, it's a
community
buzzword.
Is integral to businesses these days. And it is, if it comes naturally to you and your business, you're onto a winner, I think, because building communities is something that I think that's in your DNA as a founder. You'll agree. But then what happens is it trickles down through the team, and what you end up with is just this family of people that are all working for a common goal. But that's how I fell into it. It was a complete accident. I got pushed every step of the way. I remember when I worked on counter, I was fully booked with makeups to the point where I couldn't make sales because I wasn't standing on the counter. I was too busy doing makeup. And then one of my clients was like, how much do you get paid? And I was like, I think I was on $7.50 an hour. And she was like, you need to go self-employed. You need to go. I'll come to you wherever you are. And, you know, you make, I think makeup artists, I think back then it was like 40 quid for a makeup. And then it went up to 50 quid an hour. Like, and that's an hour. So what happened was I went freelance, worked for myself for the first time.
What age was that? Or how long after you'd started that?
So counter, I was working on counter for 4 years. I think it was maybe 21 or 20, no, 22. 20, I think I was 22. So and then I was fully booked every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you know, when you start working for yourself, you don't take breaks. You don't take days off. Yeah. And I buzzed off it. It was the exact same as working for a counter, but I could use whatever product I wanted. So it's weirdly, I think when you work on a makeup counter, it's in your blood. So when I was doing people's makeup, I was like, have you tried this? And it doesn't matter what brand it was because I was obsessed with it. And then these clients would go away and, you know, stock up on all my favourite products that became their favourite products. So,
and it was almost, I guess at that stage then, you're almost, I mean, you're doing what now is influencer marketing very much in real life from kind of this point of view of, you know, people are respecting your opinion, they're respecting kind of how you do your makeup and all of that. So that's such a natural part of your content, both in real life, but then also kind of transitioning onto YouTube in terms of building that community. That's what you were doing on the everyday.
I say that I use this analogy a lot. Working on a makeup counter, you're speaking to one person, maybe two, but when you go online, you're speaking to hundreds of thousands of people, but in the exact same way. And I think that, you know, working on a makeup counter at one point, I think I was maybe a little bit embarrassed that was my background, because, you know, it's starting right at the basics for makeup, but that is completely like where my power comes from, I think, and my understanding of people. The emotional intelligence that I spoke about earlier, you get that from working on a counter, because you have no idea who's going to come up to you that day or for what reason. And working on a really classic legacy brand teaches you so much about customer service and how you speak with people and product knowledge and things like that. And then working at Illamasqua taught me that beauty is for everyone. And it just made me so open and ready to like embrace anyone that came my way. You know, if they chose beauty, then I was going to help them in whatever way I could. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so from that point, when you just started your YouTube channel, you started to grow that more as a community, you'd gone self-employed, so you were kind of doing both, I guess, the online stuff. I always say that, you know, back at that time, it wasn't necessarily the same in terms of influencer marketing. Like, I remember when I kind of first started out, and it would be the numbers that you'd look at now that you'd probably be, you know, you'd easily be working with brands, and I'd be like begging brands to even just be like, please, just like one little thing. I'll do like 17 posts for this thing that's worth like £30. And it was obviously like a very different world. At what time did you start kind of making money from the social media side?
So I think there was maybe a few months. I should actually go back and see if I can like trace it back as to when it all happened, because I think in the space of like 3 months, my following was growing really quickly. I think that there's hard work involved, but there's also luck for sure. It was timing as well. So I think from the time that I worked at Illamasqua to when I left freelance makeup, so when I was working in the salon, I always do this. I'm like, when I was doing my makeup.
It shows you can do it.
But when I think it was like, that must have been a year. I went from maybe 20,000 followers to 200,000.
Wow.
So it was quick. And for me, I remember when you look back, it was really, really quick. And I think in the space of a few months, you know, I remember when I got my first job, that was how much money I would make in a month working on counter in a day. And I had a complete meltdown, but also I felt completely happy with that. I was like, nothing needs to change from here. Yeah. This is me. I am so comfortable. I've always, I don't think I'm a greedy person. So as soon as like I felt, oh my God, it was just mental to me. I couldn't believe it, but I was still working on like doing makeups because that's what I loved. And then I was fully booked. I was having a great time. I was doing lessons through the week, makeup appointments through the weekend. And I got invited to LA with Urban Decay, and I thought it was spam. I thought someone was taking the piss out of me. I was like, someone's winding me up here. And it wasn't a wind up at all. And it was like maybe in like 2 weeks' time on a Friday, say, where we were meant to be leaving. But I had clients booked in that day. And I was like, I can't go. And it was someone, like one of my friends, it was like, are you mental? Yeah. She was like, are you crazy? You need to sort this out. So because I'd built such a great relationship with my clients, I was honest. I messaged and I was like, I've been invited to America with a brand, and I'm going to go, and I've rebooked you with one of my like colleagues who's amazing, and I hope that's all right. And literally every single one of them came back and were like, we were wondering why you were still here, if we're honest.
That's so lovely.
I still loved it, and I do love it. Like recently I did one of our colleagues' makeup, Harriet. She's in her 50s. She's our bookkeeper. And it took me right back to my counter days, because she was asking me all these questions that were just like when someone would sit down with me on counter. And I did her makeup, and her reaction at the end literally made my heart swell. And I was like, this is what I do it for. It's not like, see, like A-list makeup and doing makeup on models is great, and I've actually not done much A-list makeup at all, which again is something that I was like, oh, should I be embarrassed about this? But no, it's not what it's about for me. I hate the term real people, because everyone's a real person, but it's our customers, and it's the people that we can all relate to, I think.
100%. But I also think that's what's you know, I've always, when I've looked at your kind of social media and your brand and everything, it's one of those people that you stand out so much in the way that you have such an incredible community. And I think that part of that is because, I mean, obviously having met you, but also you can tell that it's so authentic to you, because it genuinely, I also feel like back in the day of YouTube at that time, it was either a performance or it genuinely was just, but it was so unfiltered, it was so natural, and people would have had that insight into kind of your real personality and who you were. And that's why YouTube as well is so valuable for actually growing a true community and that true kind of engagement, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of like almost building friendships.
Totally. And you know, social media is changing all the time, and now we've got TikTok. It's going back to that. It's kind of going back to that raw, real self, which honestly it took me a while to get used to, because I'm so used to separating what I do on each platform to suit the platform. When it all starts changing, it kind of sets you through a loop. You're like, oh right, okay, I need to rethink this. But YouTube for me, people know me so well. And they come up to me, like people that I meet in the street all the time, they come up and they ask how my dog's are, and they ask how Jack is, and they ask, how's the renovation going? Like people know so much. And for me, that's something that I really enjoy. And they'll say, do you know what, is this weird? Is it weird that I know this? And I'm like, no, I mean, that's great.
It's almost actually something that I forget, having moved off of kind of YouTube and more social media, is I almost forget that there are people who kind of watched, you know, 3-4 years of my life, like very authentically, like every time it was like, you know, in the same uni room and all of this, and genuinely know everything. And then it's kind of, it is like a friend. Like I've met so many people where it's genuinely like, we would be friends. Like we would be great friends.
Like attracts like, honestly. And I think, no, you're so right. It's meeting the people that choose to invest that time in you, and actually see through COVID and stuff like that. The amount of messages I got saying that I was helping people, just even for company, like loads of people were by themselves. Loads of people were stuck in high-rise flats. Like, with, you know, outside time really was 1 hour walk a day round a block. So I think that it's all fun and it's quite, you know, but it doesn't have to be serious, but actually what you can do for people, it can be quite, you know, it can be serious. It can be a serious help for them. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And at what point did you decide this could be not just a business in the way it's a business now and it's kind of making me money, but I could create a brand that was exactly what I wanted from makeup, and that, you know, could be your next stage as well in terms of your career?
So I think we talk a lot about this, about the saturation in the beauty space. And I think, again, coming from a counter and then working online, working with loads and loads of brands, and there are so many brands that I love and still use all the time and still work with, because that was really important to me. I think that collaborative business is modern business. I think that, you know, we were talking with someone yesterday, and back in the day, businesses would be like this with their customers. They'd be like, no, it's our customers, it's my customers. But actually now, kind of raising businesses up that are like you, that are like friends of your business, up on a pedestal, like to surround yourself with these people is so important. I had this awareness that I wasn't always aware of, that I looked at what I could create that could be different, right? So everyone asks about your USP, don't they? Which it's a great question. I think it's a scary question, because especially when you're starting out, because you're terrified. You're like, well, what if I can say what I want my USP to be, but what if it doesn't happen? So I feel like there's brands that have amazing qualities about them, but very rarely brands that have all these qualities together. So one of them is brands that have a really great soul. You know, their heart is amazing. Their heart's in the right place. You can really get on board with their ethos, but maybe their products aren't very good. You know, maybe they've not invested as much into their formulas and things. And for me, you know, I would buy that product once because I love the way that the brand makes me feel when I look at it. But when I use the products, you know, it doesn't make me very excited. Then you get brands that have incredible formulas, like makeup artists approved formulas that work, that are of a really high standard, but sometimes can maybe not feel like they're for you. So especially for your average customer who's not a makeup artist, you know, if you're a proper makeup artistry brand, which VIEVE, I like to think is, but the way that we do it's a bit different, which makes it available for everyone. You know, you can kind of be feeling like you're held at arm's length a little bit. And you can, you know, be a part of that brand because they're kind of up here, if that makes sense. And then some brands have amazing founders that maybe aren't always relatable. slightly, again, inspirational, but you can't really see yourself living their life or living their day-to-day. And actually, I think that my background in working on counter, but also social media, people know that I'm a normal person. And actually, again, that's something that I was kind of embarrassed about when I launched a business. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm just a normal person. I like chilling out with my dogs on a Sunday. Do you know what I mean? Like, and living, covering their hair. You know, I'm not very polished. I think that's what I thought I had to be, was this polished version of myself that is really articulate, and so these three things. And then the last thing, which that only came to me when we were having a strategy day with the whole team, is the culture. I've created somewhere that I want to work, and I've created somewhere where kindness is at the very, very top of what's important to me. Because see, when you treat each other with kindness and give everyone the space to do their role, and I think that there's just something about like how I really, really care about, for example, my family. My family have worked with me for a really long time as well. Like my mum and my dad and Jack, we've all worked together for 6 years, which is not something I've ever shared because I don't feel like I need to. But I see them all the time, Monday to Friday. It's like my family unit when I'm back home. That love and that kind of protective energy, and also how I want people to feel extends to my VIEVE team, but then it extends to our customers as well. So see, like I always say, like I challenge anyone to find a brand that has all these things and a customer base that speak to each other with the utmost respect and kindness, which I think just makes me feel actually like goosebumpy. It makes me so proud. And we were talking yesterday, you know, for me, our customer service, their tone of voice is unbelievable. I've never seen customer service like it in my life. And that is like, that's a lot of our customers' first point of contact with us. And you know, sometimes customer service is for problems, right? So we like, that's the first thing I was like, we need to fix the problem straight away. Because otherwise that customer's going to be left with a bitter taste in their mouth with our brand. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I also just think that like, from a brand owner point of view, like that, when you get your customer service right, and when you get it to the point where you're kind of like, I trust this team so much. They're such nice people. And when you see them and you kind of see them on the everyday and you're like, actually, now when I'm emailing customer service from any other brand, like it's people like this just sitting there and they want to help you. Like they have no interest in not, you know, getting to the bottom of your problem and all of that. And I think that it's like being able to see that kind of working so well, and getting my favorite messages ever to get, and I'm sure you'll have the same, is like on Instagram being like, hey, actually, I had a problem with my order and I just wanted to say that I had such a good experience. And that's like, you went out of your way to tell me this, so it must have been a really great experience. And there is honestly nothing better than just kind of really believing in that side of your business as well, and knowing that that respect kind of from customer to customer service and like with the whole brand and community is there, is just, it's so special.
It's the best.
And how did you start it? What was the initial kind of the idea of the business, the going about kind of either finding suppliers or partnerships, or where did that come from?
So I remember I was having, me and Jack got taken away for an overnight for our wedding present by who is now our CEO, Emma. She knew that I wanted to create a business. She knew that I wanted to create a makeup brand. I started working on it completely by myself, you know, putting my ideas down on paper, what I think would look good. And for me, the creative, the way that we speak to people, the brand identity, that's what's at the forefront of my mind. I've never been to, like, I don't have a business degree. I don't know what I'm doing. Like that's what I was, when I was putting my ideas on paper, the first thing I realized, I was like, I'm going to need help. I'm going to need a lot of help.
Which is also, so I think we touched on this a bit before, but I think it's so easy to think that, and probably because of the way that like business is represented online, but that business is this like one chunk thing. It comes with either a degree or like loads of reading or all of these things. I haven't got a fucking clue about it. Honestly, when we started like our fundraise and being like, oh my God, I've got to go over all these like models and all of that, and genuinely like learning along the way. The other stuff in terms of the brand, the product, the customer, all of that is just as, if not more important. And this kind of warped view we have of a business having to be someone with like a really kind of like formulaic business mind. You need to be able to surround yourself with those people. And one of the most intelligent things you can do is understand that like, actually, this isn't my area of expertise.
No, you can't do everything.
You're great at this. I will tell you if this product works. And like build a brand around it. And that's so, I always think that's smarter than...
The foundation of your brand's so much stronger when you've got people that can do their jobs. I'm in awe of our team all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm also, you know, I quite like not knowing everything. Like I'm good at what I'm good at. And you've said it before, and I've heard you say it before, that, you know, you hire someone that's way better than you to do their jobs. You're so right. And when I heard you say that, I was like, yes, because I don't want the pressure and having to learn how to do, you know, P&Ls. P&L for me.
But also the thing is it's like that. I think there's this idea that the things that we traditionally know as business are therefore going to be the most valuable for you as the founder to do. But it's like, you didn't get to this situation by being good at P&L. So why in this single situation would you like pivot to being like, guys, I'm doing the cash flow? I remember looking at my first ever cash flow and I called up someone and I was like, I think we've got a big hole here. Like, I'm seeing 400 grand missing. And they were like, no, like, this is how it works. You need to look at like this column instead. And I was like, no worries, guys.
It's brutal, but do you know, that's another thing in being a founder, you're leading your team, right? So me being the way that I am and being like, I don't understand, it gives everyone the right to be able to, they can also ask these questions, and no questions are stupid. You know, our social media assistant, who has now been promoted because she's the best, she at one point she was like, I don't know what any of this means, and I'm like, just ask. So we all like ask questions constantly, and you know, when we're all talking about socials, on the other side, they might, like, the finance guys might not know what we're talking about. So we all just learn together and see, having an environment where you don't feel stupid for saying, asking questions. You don't feel stupid for saying your piece either. If you've got an idea, like we are so collaborative in the way we work, but we also I just trust everyone to do what they're here to do. And then also, like, you're going to make mistakes all the time. I quite like making mistakes sometimes. I shouldn't say that. I'm joking. But because you bounce back and you learn from it. But the reason I've done it again, I've went, I started putting it all down on paper. The first person I ever hired was one of my best friends, Charlotte, who was at uni doing graphic design. So good, really, like, I nearly said her vibes are immaculate, which they are, but I don't love that phrase. And she basically, all my ideas, we would talk about them and she would create it. And she would put it in a like PDF or whatever, so we could start looking at what it all looked like together. And that's when I started getting really excited. That's when I spoke to Emma, who is our CEO.
And how did you know Emma?
Am I allowed to talk about the history? Yeah. That sounds so weird. No. So Emma actually was my manager she's been my manager for 5 years. So weirdly, because of that relationship, so close, we talk about this all the time, on paper shouldn't work, but I think our models are the same, our work ethic is the same, you know, and then I think, you know, when things get hard and you get through the other side unscathed, which is it, we just kind of like, I don't know, oh my God, I completely forgot the phrase, but we just put everything down and we just power through and we get it done. And then like the next week we'll be like, that was a lot.
But which is literally the most valuable type of relationship you can have, especially in any kind of, you're not a startup, but you know, any kind of business where you're really going to be working through things, and it's not a huge team. It's one of those things where you're like, actually, when we start going through shit, like tools down, we're working, you know, we're working through this and we're all getting stuck in. Yeah. And I feel like being able to build a team of people who, no matter the hierarchy, and I think that, are able to kind of really get stuck in. I also think that it's you know, what you were saying about making mistakes is so important, because I remember there have been so many different phases of the Tala team and kind of like building this team, not in terms of like hugely different people, but in terms of, you know, as teams grow and evolve, they change hugely. And I think that there was this one point that I thought, I need to get the people with the most impressive experience in terms of, you know, look at the brands that we'd really like to be like. I've got to get people from all of those places. And sure, in some situations it really works, but personality and culture fit has to be there as well. Like, you cannot just get the people with, you know, 10 years at the brand that, say for us, maybe like 10 years at Nike. Like, that's not necessarily going to work. It's got to have this kind of culture fit, because if there's a day that actually you're like, fuck, like this is bad, we really need to work through this, if anyone feels like as part of the culture they're kind of above that, whether that's the founder, whether that's anyone within that, it's not going to work because everyone needs to be pulling their weight for that to happen.
It's like I always say, it's like getting the dirt out. It's a dirty time. Everyone's really, but then when you're through the other side, stronger as a team. But you're right. You're totally right in everything that you said there. I completely agree.
And so how did you start building the products themselves?
So we went for a meeting in New York with essentially like a third party. So they helped us with, because when you talk about making products, a lot, like it's almost like half formula, half component. And if you want it to stand out, you know, it's funny because you can get private label, right? So the people would go in and there's like a shop floor and you pick a component, you pick a formula, you put it together and then there you go. And I didn't do that, obviously, because I like to make things difficult for myself. But I just know what I want. And I'm not a perfectionist because actually I heard you say this as well. And you're right. And it took me a long time to get my head around this. You can't be a perfectionist because you won't ever do anything. You would literally sit in it and get obsessed.
You have to have high standards. High standards, I find, is very different from being a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Being a perfectionist, I think, can really hold you up from getting things done. You have to be able to see the bigger picture and just be like, on we go. Yeah. This is really great. We're really proud of this. If we work to make this, first of all, I don't believe perfect always exists in products because it's so subjective as well. But onwards. Yeah,
perfect. I think what I've realised, you're exactly what you've just said. If it's perfect to me, then I'm happy. But perfect, there's certain things. Oh God, maybe I am.
I have this debate the whole time.
I know. I'm just struggling with it right now because, like, see, for example, we just launched an eyeliner. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So, and I worked for so long on this eyeliner because it had to be perfect. And, you know, I went to labs all over the world and it was never good enough. And then I found this one lab in Japan and I was like, this formula, this could be something, tweaked it, got the component, changed the component, put it all together. And then by the end of it, you know, the amount of work it took to get this right. But I believe that people, you know, excitement is infectious. And I think I'm an excitable person. So if I'm excited about something, you can clearly see it. See, if I'm not excited, you can clearly see it.
I completely agree.
So there's a block in me and I'm like, if I'm not excited about this and I don't think it's brilliant, we can't do it.
See, I think product is the one area that you really can be a perfectionist on because it makes such a difference. I think in terms of like the wider process as a whole, or even, for example, you might, this is not based on evidence, but say you have this eyeliner now and you're like, this is the perfect eyeliner for doing X, Y, and Z. And in the future, you want it to be able to do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z and have a certain packaging. But for now, actually, this is a perfect product for what it needs to be. And we can aim for that in future. If you kind of always get stuck on having to have all of these other things that you can see in the future too, it's not that it takes the kind of product down a notch because it's not there. It's actually that, you know, in the future, I can see this growing into like this, and this. But if you never pressed forward with anything at the point that you thought, this is really fucking great, let's go for it. Because everything can always be better in some way. Then that's when I think you're getting held up on the not seeing the bigger picture.
But that's how we started. We had help pulling the component and the formulas and everything together. I would go to the lab. I was still filming like vlogs at this point, so I would vlog going to Italy and just be like, I'm just on a girls trip. But actually I was in the lab all day, checking the pigments, checking everything. So that I think my involvement in the product, I don't know if I always show that properly because it's everything. And I'm right in the nitty gritty, and then it goes from that to all the bulk submissions. So basically the back and forth after you've picked your product, you think that's it. It's not. You get all the tests, all the bulk approvals, you get them sent off. Then we'll get our like PR samples almost. This is the samples that we would send to journalists to have a first look at, influencers. And it's also the set that I will use on shoots. So I do all the makeup for our photo shoots as well. And it's like my favourite thing. It's hard. It's long days, but it's the best. And then weirdly, you know, I wear like 4 different hats when I go on shoot. So I'm doing the makeup, I get lost in that. Have you read a book called Ikigai?
I've heard of it.
It's great. You need to read it. So basically this book, it just made everything that I do make sense. And it made me feel really happy because I found my Ikigai, right? So basically when I was doing my makeup, I would get in my flow and then I would get snapped out of it because it's like, Jamie, we need you to come and see the monitor and make sure you're happy. So I would run over there and then I would run over to the next set that we're working on because I need to make sure that all looks great. But then I need to also run and speak with my team who are talking about the next launch. You know, it's all of these things that kind of but I kind of love the craziness of it. But so I still live in Scotland, and I think that separation for me is the best.
And it probably means you can fully throw yourself into it as well, because I feel like I can imagine it would be a real recipe for it probably being too much and getting burnt out as well, because also you have to have this. This is why a large reason of why I stepped away from social media kind of more and more when I was doing more and more on, I'm in here in the office every day. Like, as in, I feel like the more you do, the less you can actually show.
Yeah.
And I can imagine you could get really burnt out if you're having to wear both those hats all the time. Yeah. Because actually doing the day-to-day and being in the office and doing, all of those things you were talking about, and also showing that is really, it's a lot.
Yeah. It's only recently, actually. So I had a sit down with myself, like I said to you earlier. I love just sitting down and going, why do I feel like this?
Yeah.
And I'll write it down. And I wrote a list of things that I do, that I have to do every day. And I kind of ranked them. And I'm like, what's the most important to me? What do I get the most enjoyment out of? What does it cost me? So whether it costs time or, sacrifices. It was a really good exercise, because I looked at it, and then what I realised was I want to do all of this, but it's the amount in which that I'm doing it that I can't. Where can I compromise? VIEVE, no, I can't compromise. I need to be in it as much as I am, if not more. I just think as time goes on, I spend all my time doing this, and I almost do like the rest of the stuff at evenings and weekends. But you know yourself, you work evenings and weekends as well. So it was just getting the balance for me was really like making a table of what was important to me, and delegating it through the week. So the social stuff, I stopped. It took me a while, but I had to stop, weekly vlogs, because some weeks I'm in a hole because I'm just getting stuff done, and I'm like up to here, like literally samples all over my arms. And I'm like, I can't vlog this. I can't show this because it's a secret.
But I also think that you can, I feel like I get so much more out of my job. Like sometimes there'll be kind of days where a few days at a time where I'll just kind of go completely off social media, and some of my friends will be like, oh, is everything okay? And it'll be like, the second I get out of this little headspace where I'm in there and we're really about to make a breakthrough on something and talk about it, or talk about other things, or talk about what, like, I need to be in that little pot of like working on this, and then I can come out of that. And I feel like one of the biggest problems for me, and I don't know if you can relate to this, is that the headspace that I was using to show things was a completely different headspace that I was using to work through things and to be kind of in whether it was in the office talking about product or any of these things. And so sometimes I just need to stick myself in one of them and be like, I know I need to do the other one, but for now I'm not going to do that, because otherwise I'll be compromising this, like, when you just feel like you're on the edge of something and you're like, I'm really about to break through here, but I'm not quite there. And I feel like for me, establishing that kind of boundary and knowing when I'm in which space to be able to push through. I can imagine with kind of like the social media side as well.
Yeah, totally. I always say like less but better. So see if I feel like I'm doing far too much, and I'm, there's like a thin spread of doing well across a lot of things. Sometimes you just need to focus it on one thing or the other, for sure.
And so what's the big goal with VIEVE?
I used to be terrible about speaking about myself and my goals, because I would always think that they were too big. People would think I was stupid. People would think I was stupid, and I was like, oh God. And I think I'm still figuring out a way how to say this, but I just want VIEVE to be enjoyed all over the world. I really do. I want us to go to the US. I want us in Australia, Canada, UAE. I want really the way that we do business, and this collaboration that I talk about with businesses. I also don't want the monopoly on everyone's makeup bags. I want you to enjoy what you enjoy, and I want us to be peppered in through your life, because that's sort of like peppering in luxuries in my life is what makes me happy. So that's what I want everyone to feel when they've got VIEVE. But by saying that, we've kind of done the opposite. People want it all to be VIEVE. Like we get sent pictures, and it's like, look at my collection, and I'm like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I'm so glad that you love it all. So I want the community to grow and expand. I want to meet as many of our customers as I can. It's literally my favorite thing. It's just like working on counter, but it's like for something that I've made. It's the craziest thing. I love growing our team. I think that the diversity in people and what they've got to bring to the table, I learn so much every day, and it's from people, and it can be from literally any part of our business, but I've not stopped learning. I've never learned so much in my life that I have since working on VIEVE, launching VIEVE and where it is today. And it honestly is like, people ask me, like, everyone asks, how's it going? And you know, it's so hard, but it's so good.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel like you're in this whole like little world that it's almost like, sometimes I'm like, it's almost like I'm playing a game because it's so great. Like you get to go around, there's all these amazing people who are so good at their jobs. And I'm like, how are you this good? And how have you given me the blessing of being this good at like the thing that I've dreamt of? And
you've put it perfectly. That's exactly how I feel. And I sometimes look and I'm, you know, we talk a lot about, what do you call it? Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I shut it out now. I'm like, go away.
Yeah.
Enjoy
lost.
It. Yeah. So I'm just grateful now. I don't feel like I shouldn't be here. I'm just grateful that I am, and I've got the team that I do around me. And oh my God, see when the weight that you can put on your own shoulders as a founder, there's so many people that want a bit of that weight. They're like that, no, give it to me. We can all work on it together. So yeah, it's just like sharing the load and being okay to do that. Like, it doesn't take away from what you've done, and it doesn't take away from how hard you work. Yeah. And it's a proper privilege to be able to share it with people.
100%. And I also think that, like, obviously half the time when you're about to kind of take people on and delegate and all of these things, obviously part of that is you feel like you should be doing all these things, and you feel like it's your business, so you should kind of spend the time doing this, because otherwise you're getting the credit for other people's work and all of this. I had like a big issue with that for a long time, just because I was like, oh, I feel awful if this person's working so hard on this. And it's ultimately like, when the stuff is talked about in the press, like, it's, you know, I know it kind of comes down to me, but the beauty then of building a team filled with people who, as you say, hopefully you're building a workplace that people really want to work at and enjoy working at it, and are also able to do what they want to do in a way that's kind of, you know, like a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, we're all going up. Like, this is amazing. Like, how cool that we get to do this every day. And I feel like as soon as I looked past the kind of ego of me thinking, oh, I need to do all this, it's like, no, you also think you need to do all this because you need to see yourself to do all of this. And actually, what better and actually what harder than to build a team of amazing people who are all so good at their roles and can make something incredible happen together. Like, I feel like half the time it feels like being on a really good group project, like where you're with like all these really great people, you're having a great time and you're like just working through these problems. Like, it's so cool. It's
funny that what you're talking about like credit, because I've realised that a lot of my happiness comes from work. So when I do well, and one thing that it took me ages to get my head around, and I don't know if you'll relate to this at all, but getting a pat on the back and getting told I'm doing a good job, I couldn't believe how much I missed that when I was the boss. I was like, oh God, no one's going to tell me that, because they'll just assume that I'm doing it for myself, but I don't do it for myself.
Or I'll assume they're saying that because they
you just want to. So, but what I've realised is, I'd say that's like one of my love languages when it comes to work, is getting told I'm doing a good job. I've just changed it, and I worked really hard at credit where credit's due. If someone's worked really, really hard and they've done well, I will literally announce it, and I'll be like, that, how amazing. Yeah. How brilliant. And I know I can see that lifts up the team. And I think that for me, that's how I can, I don't know, like fill that glass within myself, because it's the one thing that, and actually taking the time to say to myself, I've done a good job today, which it took me ages to do as well. Like, even like sometimes my mum, I'm like, just tell me I'm doing a good job. Yeah. And she goes, you just go, yeah, you're doing a good job.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I do think it's one of those things, like, you almost think it goes without saying. And even consciously, I remember about 6 months ago, myself and Morgan, the Tala's managing director, we sat down and we were like, we need to shout more about people's kind of success and what people do. Not because we weren't before, but because we're like, people get so happy. Like, how great if we can give more people like more happiness, not in terms of this like really noble way, but in terms of like genuinely, like, you can see the difference on someone's face. If it's seen that last week, actually, they had a really hard week and they were pulling a lot of weight and they did it really well. And I think in so many workplaces, that's obviously kind of overlooked because it's quite, you know, it's big teams, you miss things and everyone's working hard. But being able to kind of create a culture where congratulating people and noticing people's hard work doesn't take away from anything else. It really, really, really does. I hate this whole culture of kind of needing to almost like demand respect by withholding these things. It's kind of how great that we can all be like doing this. And like, I see you working really hard and like, thank you so much.
I just know that if someone said that to me, it would literally make my day and I'd be like, oh my God, I want to work even harder. I don't want congratulations to make people think they need to work hard. It's literally just a little bit of a boost. And another thing that is something that I've seen benefit the team is my ability to say when I've made a mistake. So there's no pointing fingers, there's no thrown under the bus, which is actually one of my pet peeves. It's a group, it's a collective, you know, we're all working together. So see, when I make a mistake, I'll literally say, that was me. I'll say, I thought that this would work and it wouldn't, but it's fine because we can move on. And then again, it lets other people think that they can make mistakes and not have to hide it or be like, you know, not be nervous that they're going to be fingers pointed at, you know?
Yeah, which I kind of think about this a lot. And I do think that this kind of, well, our generation and I guess the kind of new generation of people building businesses, I think and hope that they could be building businesses that are just, it's this whole different idea. It's not like, obviously you need to earn your stripes and all of this, but it's not this kind of like 30 years of like, well, I don't need to congratulate you because you're being paid. Like, this is your job. And actually creating cultures where it's like, we can make mistakes, we can talk about mistakes, we can make estimates that are completely wrong and then just be like, whoops, that was me. And we can congratulate people, even though, of course, it's their job. It's, you know, like, you can still congratulate people for doing well and also kind of generate this excitement. And I really hope that kind of like new culture, I hear a lot of founders talking about it, I could really see it, you know, just becoming much nicer workplaces for people. And I hate the idea that work will always be places that people, you know, that people, my kind of friends will come home from and be like, my fucking manager. Yeah. I don't want that.
No. I would be heartbroken. I would be proper heartbroken. And I think if anything ever was to arise where, you know, there's maybe something going on, because it's inevitable, right? 100%. Just sort it out. We'll get it sorted. We'll be right back.
And tell me about the Series A.
Well, we... oh God, I'm maybe not actually the best person suited to talk about. Emma's nodding at me. We have really big ambitions for the brand. We have grown at a really exciting rate. And it was just time for us to look at what our plan was and what we needed to do it right. So right at the start, I actually thought that I could just like, what do you call it? I was going to pay for everything myself. So I was going to just put all my own investment into the brand to get it kickstarted. I realised really quickly that I could do that, but it would be a pretty short leap because I would have enough money to maybe like buy plenty of stock, and then it would sell out, and then I'd be sitting for 4 months when I wait for it to, you know.
I think that is one thing also that's forgotten on the side of kind of influencer-backed businesses or influencer-founded businesses too, is the scale that you have to start at is very, very different.
You can't creep up.
You can't create a minimum order of, say, like 200 products, because it will sell out and you'll make people really angry, whether it's because they can't get it or because the site glitched or like all of these things. You have to start at a certain scale. One of the businesses that we didn't start at a kind of bigger scale was literally just because it was online product, and so that's fine. But genuinely, the amount of like, to even buy stock that could satiate what you would sell through an ad of another product, it's often like hundreds of thousands.
It's a lot
in terms of that investment. So I do think that's always like kind of worth saying, because it's like, where are we going?
That's such a good point. And then you know, so what we did at the very start, I had my money ready to go, and I still put it in. I still put everything I had in, and we did a seed round. So Venrex led that, and I remember we signed on my 27th birthday, and I could not believe that the investors that were the seed for Charlotte Tilbury were invested in me, because it just felt cosmic to me. It was perfect. It was perfect to me. And they are such brilliant partners for us. And I know that you're familiar with them as well. We've just felt so much support, and I think that the way that they do business is so in line with the way that we want to do business. It's support, but it's not controlling, which I think weirdly for me, it kind of reminds me of influencers And, you know, some brands will go to an influencer and they'll give them a brief and it's completely far from what they actually do. And it's like, well, why are you hiring this person? It's because you like what they do already. So I would kind of let them do it. That's like a really severe version of that. And it's small and it's a one-day thing. But but see, with the investors, it's kind of similar. It's like, well, you love the vision and you love the brand. It's having that trust and that space to grow the brand in the way that you want to do it. And we've got exactly that. And it's the perfect partners when it comes to when we need help and when we need support and advice.
Or even just like what I've found, because they have so much knowledge in kind of consumer and just have backed some really, really amazing businesses. They also have this kind of, there's like a breadth of different ways that success can happen for all of those. So it's kind of even just healthy discussion. Like, because I'm sure you'll find this as well when it's obviously either just you two or a kind of the wider leadership team, whatever it might be. It's like, of course we can discuss this at length. Like Morgan and I spend our whole lives just discussing things back and forth, but actually we'll then become an echo chamber. And we even like sometimes we'll just be like, can we just hop on a call about this? And we'll all just be challenging each other. It's not like kind of someone telling you what to do. It's let's have really healthy discussion.
That's exactly it.
Because there's no right answer.
It's asking the hard questions as well that make you sit and think like, oh, I think what they're really good at is planting seeds, and then they'll grow, and then you're like, okay, something needs to change, or we need to maybe think about this a little bit more. So we did that, signed on my 27th birthday, which was a great birthday.
That's a very good birthday present.
And then I don't know how to fucking talk about this.
So how long's it been since the seed round?
It's 27th birthday, 2 years.
And how's that 2 years been in terms of kind of having that injection and being able to experiment a bit, but also...
It was so important for us to be able to keep, honestly, like stock levels and for us to have the room and the flexibility to go with retailers when it made sense. So we launched with Cult Beauty 2 weeks after we launched on our own site. We've just recently-ish, we went to H Beauty in Edinburgh, then Gateshead in Newcastle, and then Harrods, which was
unbelievable,
which was a crazy moment. So it just gave us the flexibility to be able to as well forecast and prepare for what's coming and be really agile as well. We weren't waiting for cash flow to be able to do certain things. We had the time, and I think for us, for the next step, we need that, but more. And that's why we decided to look into our Series A. It took quite a while for us to get here. And, you know, there was conversations with loads of different people, but what we've ended up with, again, it just feels pretty perfect. I think that there's a lot to be said for your gut feeling.
100%.
Oh my God, like people say it as like, oh, I've got a gut feeling. No, like I've went against my gut feeling. I think there's 2 times, and both times I've been like, I knew it.
Yes.
I knew it. So see, as soon as I get that feeling...
You just feel a little bit like kind of dirty when you're going around the whole time. And like, every time you think about it, you're like, oh, I'll just think about something else. That's when I know I'm like, nope, need to get to the bottom of that.
When you're putting off something or you can't even like face looking at it, that's when, you know, you're not going to be able to figure it out and then work towards it. You need to cut it out like a rotten bit of fruit or something. You need to get it away. So that's only happened twice. Thank God there were only wee things. There were like small things, manageable. But, you know, like recently I've kind of culled a project for the time being that I was just like, it's not the time. It's not it. And it's not going to bring me good feeling. I always find that it's like, I get so excited about anything Tala so easily. And so if there's something that's just like niggling in the back of my mind that I'm like, that doesn't excite me, I'm always like, hey guys. No, but it's so, that's I think that's why it all, I think that's why it ends up working. It's the same thing that we just talked about, excitement for your product. If you're not excited about it, how you might talk about it with people. How can you get someone else excited about your product if you're the one who made it and who's also going to get a payday for it? Like, how are you going to get, you know, other people? That needs to be so much more exciting. And therefore, it's like you can't stand behind it in the same way. And I do really think you can tell the businesses that have that almost that kind of soul behind them, because that soul kind of almost makes those decisions. It's like, actually, do you know what? I don't think this is Tala. I don't think this is who we are. Let's scrap it. No, you have to believe in it. Your instinct, your gut, and honestly, I always call things cosmic, and I was like, it's cosmic, it's not meant to happen. It's not in our path. So when's that round going? Has the round closed? Is it almost? We're close. September. I'm allowed to say that. So September.
So it will be,
next
the
month.
episode will be out.
Oh, how exciting. Yeah. No, September, so next month.
That's so exciting. And how do you feel about the kind of next stage of growth? Are there a few, is it kind of specifically about hiring, inventory, expansion?
So there's a few projects that are going to take a lot of investment in themselves to get perfect. Use that word again. Hiring, yes, we need to expand our team. And weirdly, not just on a leadership level. I want people with great ideas, young minds. I want young minds. I want them to teach me things. So we know we've got a good list of people that we need to hire. And there's just for us to be able to have the ability to go into other markets in the completely right way. And I think, you know, the background seeing in the VIEVE team, everyone's background is so, again, diverse. Everyone's got such great ideas. And like, we would like to bring in other people that are experts in their field for different markets and things. So it's exciting. It's, you know, once upon a time, it's so funny. And you probably won't feel like this because, am I right in thinking, what did you study?
Music.
Oh my God, it was music.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You'll feel exactly like this.
I have no experience.
No, it's great. So once upon a time, you know, you get investment, you just see the figure that's coming into coming into the business bank. You know, it really is so detached from us. Like, I'm a very frugal person. I'm very, very organized, and I know. So this is going to last us a really long time. And we'll be able to make decisions that we want to make, and it does give us freedoms to change the way we do things if we need to, or, you know, start new projects that we wouldn't have been able to do before. It just gives us the flexibility. And actually, there's something about there being more people involved than just me, especially at the start when it was just me. There's not as much riding on it. There are so many people involved in this now that it keeps, you know, in the hard days, I'm like, I don't have an option but to work hard for everyone that's involved in this. It's not just about me. Because some days if it was just about me, I was like, I'm going back to my bed.
Off again.
So no, it's really good. I kind of love that pressure. And actually something that I realised is nervousness and excitement are the same feeling when you really think about it.
When you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, you're going to be nervous, but that excitement is the best type of excitement you can have.
It's for me, it's the exact same feeling. And I feel like if I didn't feel these things, then I don't care enough. So I've started to live with it. And it's just like, I just kind of like run off it, if I'm honest.
Are you going to be disclosing the investment round amount? For the audio, there was a shaking of the hands. It was a confused maybe. So fine, I'm just checking. How is it working with your husband?
Oh my God, it's the best. Do you know, it's so weird. So me and Jack, it doesn't work for a lot of people. And then for a lot of people it does. Me and Jack are yin and yang. We talked about star signs, right? I really deeply believe in this. But I'm a Cancer. Jack's an Aries. Aries are like whirlwinds. We're getting work done in our house right now, and our plumber said, I've never seen someone walk about their own house so quickly. He's just like, a door closes and it's just like a whoosh of wind and he's away doing something else. He's non-stop. But Jack, to his core, is the kindest man I've ever met. He is so calm. And I am not. Like, I can get quite wound up, and you know, again, in a good way sometimes. You know, I'll end up in my flow and I'm like, no, this is happening for me. I need to like chase this.
I've never met a calm entrepreneur, I don't think.
No, you can't be. Everyone's a bit nutty. I think you have to be.
Oh, you really have to be.
Which is great, which is fine. But that's why I love being in a room full of founders is excellent, because they are an eclectic group of people.
It's also, so whenever I'm at anything that's kind of like founder heavy, I also have to go and stare at the wall in the bathroom for a bit. Like for 10 minutes, because I'm like a puppy. So I'll get so excited by what you're talking about and feeling like, oh my God, these are more people who are also having this every day and all of this. And I'll get so excited. And then I'll like, you know, when like a puppy like runs around so much and then they look like they're just on the floor. That's me. I can't control my excitement. Yeah, exactly. I'm like zoomies and then just like...
No, I'm the exact same, and I have to go quite quiet just to take it all in, because again, you learn so much, and people's like things that they've really won at and things that they've not, and you know, it's amazing. But Jack, he, you know, when we first started going out, he was a bricklayer and I was a makeup artist and a makeup counter. He's such a creative person that I remember one day I just phoned him and I was like, do you want to try working with me? And he said yes. So I taught him like the very basics of editing. He took that on, he learned more, he became way better than me at it. His photography got way better and he kind of grew with me at the same time, which is really nice. And then something that was really brilliant was when he moved over to work on VIEVE as well. So he started taking a lot of our photography, like our product photography, and he's our videographer at shoots. So he's just got such a similar brain to me. He knows me so well that he knows when I won't like something. So he sits on our social calls every week and he almost just sits there watching. And if he sees something, he's like, Jamie won't like that. Like it's so good. And then like, see what I mentioned, one of my best friends, Charlotte, working with me. I've got 2 other people in the business that know me so well that they just know when something's not gonna be great for me. And it's never, it's never serious, it's never brutal. It's just like, a certain order that things are posted or a certain wording. They'd be like, no. Yeah. No. So it's really, really good. I was sitting working on something. I think I was editing something and I could hear Jack on Zoom. And I could hear my team talking, and we have a new recruit that's come in, actually, as someone that's really, really creative, working on the creative of the brand, who's going to be helping Charlotte out. And I was listening to Zoe, who's been with us for nearly 2 years, right? She's been promoted since then. She works on social media, in our social media and digital. And hearing her talk about the brand and introducing Danielle, our new recruit, as to how we do things and explaining what everyone does as a role, I was just sitting like this and my heart was just like exploding. Yeah. And I just couldn't, I was like, oh my God, I was like, you guys are the best. Yeah.
And but also are the brand. And like, but having that built out to not just you and not just your vision, it's like, because it's not about you being like, I want this. It's about creating an ethos and something that you all believe in. And once that is applied to more people and people are able to say, this is the brand, this isn't the brand, that's one of the most valuable things you can have business-wise, but also as like a culture of like, no, we understand this. This isn't just what Jamie wants. Like, this is what we want for the brand.
It's honestly, I think by now everyone's blood's running a little bit black with the VIEVE branding. I swear that doesn't sound great, does it?
No, I loved it.
No, I really do think that there's a DNA in the brand that you like absorb when you're here when you're with us for long enough. And a lot of the people that we work with, they've worked with us for a really long time now. Yeah, like I can't, like I've been working since I was 14. My first ever job was at a kid's soft play. So I used to like serve chips, make toasties, make coffees, which I was not very good at because I was 14 years old. Yeah, and imagine. I think I left school early. I finished 5th year. I got my hires, which I think you call A-levels. I think it's A-level. I got my 5th year's like the second last year of school.
Yeah. So like,
Thanks. I don't know how it works anymore, but I got like my hires, and then I left to work full time because I was obsessed. I worked in Lush full time. I loved it, bath bomb shop. But I jumped about so many jobs, and I felt like if I'd been somewhere for a year, I was like, this is a really long time.
Yeah, 100%.
But people, they're still with us and they love it, and it just that again makes me super proud.
It shows you're doing something very right. What happens if you and Jack disagree on something? Is it like, because I can imagine that you need to be able to disagree on things to be able to work together. Yeah. And of course it's your business. Yeah. But also it's that kind of those lines in terms of the relationship and in terms of, obviously it's different from someone in your team disagreeing with you, because if something's really strong, then there's a
do you know what? I think, see, the respect that Jack's got for me is so admirable, because it's always so loving, and he just, whatever I say goes. Like when it comes to that, he's like, you're the boss. And like he really, like, I think a lot of the time he agrees. Like I just kind of guide him. I'm like, oh no, but if we did it like this, I think it would be great. And he's like that, yeah, fine.
And that's so healthy. That challenge is so healthy.
Yeah. And I think as long as everything, I would never ask for someone to change the way that they're doing things unless I really felt it. And it's not even me saying you need to do it like this. It's why don't we do it like this, or why do you think that this would be a good option, or tell me why you think that this is a better option, and then I can be talked around. I'm so easily influenced.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's healthy debate, and I also think that there's probably. I mean, I've never worked with a partner, and I I don't think I aspire to. I don't know why.
It's
I don't
so
think
weird
it would.
though. No, I hear this
Because
all the
I
time.
also think that I'm an absolute whirlwind at work and I'd want to be able to have that kind of separate, but I also can see why it would work so well with people. But you know, when it's kind of like healthy debate and challenge is so important in a relationship too. And it probably almost makes it so that in work, if you're able to challenge each other in things, then it's so much less of a big deal when you're challenging each other in personal things. Whereas I feel like sometimes, you know, the relationships where people not necessarily argue less, but disagree less, it's actually so much more of a big deal when you're then like, oh, you know.
It's not like every day we're fighting for the sake of it or we're fighting our points for the sake of it. It's always when Jack says something to me, I know that he's thought about it and it's considered, and I treat him the exact same way. So I know that it doesn't work for a lot of people, but weirdly for me and Jack, it kind of just does. Which is
amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I love working with them. But also because of work and the way things happen, we do get like time apart, which is equally as important.
I can imagine it could be quite suffocating if not.
And sometimes I'm really honest, I love my own company, and sometimes I'll be like that. Can't speak to you today. Let's not talk today. Don't look at me today. And then literally half an hour later, I'm like, what?
But it's healthy boundaries, and also being able to say that is so important, I feel like, in relationships, in work and everything. And do you ever feel like, because you have to both be the face of this and be working on this as a brand, do you ever find that kind of too much?
No, because weirdly Jack's a lot more under the radar than me. Like he's present in the business as his work's everywhere, but not everyone knows that. It kind of reminds me of like my mum and dad working with me for so long and not knowing that. Like it's just an underlying thing that makes me really happy that we know, you know, we all work together and we all work really hard, but I don't need to shout about it, you know. Jack, he supports and he does everything that he can to like support the brand, but he's really not super present within it. And it kind of reminds me of like the brand name. If you know me, Jamie, Genevieve, you'll know that VIEVE's mine. If you know me and Jack, you'll know that Jack works really hard within the business. But if you don't know me or Jack, you wouldn't know him in the business at all. So it's almost like these little like Easter eggs through the brand. And it's like, if you're really part of this like fam, you know how things work. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's good.
And in general, in terms of having the business and needing to be both a great kind of founder and business owner and really, you know, knowing the brand, knowing where you want to go, all of this, and also needing to be online and be visible, is that ever too much?
Yes, but I'm really kind to myself. So see if I feel things are getting a little bit like I think I do put quite a strict framework around myself. So if you know, I want to achieve a video every Thursday, but like I looked at our schedule, we'd had builders in for like 10 hours a day. I was back-to-back Zoom meetings and I was like, this is just not the week for it. So I straight away was like, I don't need to do this. So I let the like community know. I'm like, I'm sorry guys. And everyone's always so nice. It's great. So no, I think it can get too much, but I don't put as much pressure on myself at all. I think that like personally working in social media still at the same time as having a brand, like I think I'm just as busy as I was before I had the brand, which to me is crazy because I used to think I worked so hard and now I'm working, you know, just as hard, but I've got a business at the same time, which is it's quite mad when I think about it like that. But like I'm really managing it all, I think, which took me a while to get to this place. At the start, I think I felt a little bit pulled apart and I was like, oh, and I wasn't used to like even speaking to as many people a day. You know, I spoke to one person a day or in like Jack, and now I speak to maybe 15 and they need things. Everyone needs things from me. So it took me a while to get used to that. And then actually, you know, I love it. It's a whirlwind. And I think my schedule's changed. Like the way that I used to live my life is really different. Like I am so precious about getting to my bed on time, trying to wake up early, which I'm still not very good at, by the way. See, this 5 a.m. morning thing.
Oh, no, absolutely. That can fuck off. Sorry.
No, it's not for me. Not the one. 7 o'clock is like the earliest I can do. And even that, I'm like that. Even this morning for here, I woke up and I was like, okay.
I really appreciate it.
No, it's like, but everyone knows that I'm not a morning person.
But I also feel like that's so important. It's like this, I don't know about you, but like when I thought of entrepreneurs, like when I was younger and I'd like look up at these entrepreneurs, it would be like the ones, have you ever seen Mark Wahlberg?
Yes.
This is the fight. There's this TikTok that is Mark Wahlberg's daily schedule and it talks through it. And it's like, he wakes up at 3 a.m.
to work out.
But it's just so strange. And like this whole like, almost like barriers to entry of entrepreneurship by being like, it's hard in lots of different ways. Of course it is. And it's really, really taxing, and it takes pretty much everything you need. But I would also say that everything's hard. So many jobs are hard. And if this is right for you, it's right for you. We don't need to be like dancing around the fact that we all get up at fucking 3 a.m.
No.
I struggle on a 6:30 wake up, and that's my wake up. It's usually 6:45 if I'm going to the gym before work. And that's on a normal office day. So if there was an earlier breakfast meeting or anything, but it's like, I don't like that. And also you don't need to like that to be an entrepreneur. No. This whole idea that like you can be a night owl and
it's all about balance as well. Like, I will really look after myself to keep myself healthy, but I've got a book club that I go to once a month, and I drink so much wine and I have the best time of my life.
We just started a Tala book club, and
Prepare for your life to change. We're on month 5, and
really,
it's the
I'm
day that
so
I look forward
excited.
to.
The thing that made me most excited was that someone chose to set this up at work without any input. Like, that fills my heart and soul with joy, because the fact that you're thinking, do you know what I'd love to do with all of these people? I'd love to read a book, talk about this, have some cheese and wine. Like that, I go to sleep smiling.
Yeah, it's
like
the best.
Nothing makes me happier than the idea that you're deciding that you want to spend your time doing this. And
do you know what, weirdly, you're so right. In the team, that's amazing, but I needed to do it because I wasn't seeing my friends. I literally wasn't seeing my friends, and I was like, I need to make more of an effort. And actually, one of my best friends came to me and was like, we know that you're really busy. We're all busy, and we really want to see you, but it's hard. And I was like, okay,
those
I need to get
friends
a
are
grip.
so important.
She's a Scorpio. That's why she said that to me.
No,
and I
we
was
love
like,
that.
thanks.
One of my friends the other day kind of said, I'm moving, and I'm moving out by myself, and I was kind of like, I'm really excited about this because I also think that I can work better. I was like, I feel like I try so hard to be a normal young person that I like don't ever want to go into my weekends, and I always want to be going out. And I think that was really important for me at one time because I was working all the time, but I was like, I'm really serious about making Tala what I want Tala to be. And so I feel like I can do more of X, Y, and Z. And my friend replied being like, I'm not sure. She was like, I'm happy for you, and I also think, in some ways great, but she was like, you do not need to...
Don't go and get lost in it more than you... Yeah.
She was like, you don't need to work more.
Yeah, but
please.
you know what changed my life is just scheduling it once a month. It's the third Thursday of every month. It's a non-negotiable. I literally got asked to go for come down to London to go for a dinner with one of our suppliers, and I was like, it's book club night. I can come the day after or the day before, but it's book club night, and that's, for me, it's just... don't do it all the time. Don't say, oh no, I've got an appointment, every week. But see if there's one thing that's yours, and it's you spending time with your friends, because you need that time. Like, the only people I see all the time are my team and my family. My friends kind of float around, and they're really patient with me. But since I started putting more energy into that when I can, and it's not a huge amount, it's one day a month, the return on that is unbelievable. It really is fulfilling big time.
And I feel like those boundaries within self-care, but also really manageable self-care, I think is so important, because I think if you're thinking of it as something being like, oh, I need to finish at X time every day, and then I need to have 7 baths a week, and I need to do this, something other, it's like, that for me is not realistic. What is realistic is me making sure that every third Thursday or whatever, I see my friends. And like, obviously I see my friends more than that, but like in terms of like, for that specific thing, I think creating these signposted moments of almost like mothering yourself and being like, no, you're going to that is so important, because we're all so guilty as well of getting that like instant like dopamine hit of cancelling something when you're a bit overwhelmed. And it's like, that's important. It's important to be able to say no, but it's also important to pull yourself together, because you probably need to talk to your friends right now, and you're cancelling because you'd rather sit on the sofa and stare at the ceiling or watch the TV. And actually, what you need is some good conversation that's not about work, that's not about you, that's just being a normal human being.
Totally.
What do you think, if you could go back to younger Jamie, just starting out at the makeup counters, what advice would you give her?
Oh, do you know, honestly, I would just... I think that the one thing that's a common theme from little Jamie to now is just that imposter syndrome, and that kind of general sense of unease and feeling like you have to be something else because you've reached another milestone, when you're there because you're who you are, and it's fine. And it's because I think that it's, sometimes I feel like I was quite young and quite impressionable, and I was like, oh, maybe I need to be more like these guys now that I'm at their level. No, nonsense. It's self-belief, I think. Just I would give it a wee shake and be like, you're fine. But no, I do. It's so similar to who I am today. It's so weird, but I'm just grown up now. I think she'd be quite proud of me, which is nice.
I think she'd be so proud of you. I think she'd be in awe.
Oh,
thank you so much for coming. It's been great. No,
it's a pleasure. It's been so good to chat. I could actually sit here and talk to you all day.
Yeah, well, we can't. Neither of us can. I wish we could. Be a very fucking long podcast. Yeah. No, I've had such a good time. Thank you so much.
Me too, Chris. Thank you very much.